Welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is a place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you're a one-person shop or a nimble MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. All right. I'd like to introduce one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. And of course, the whole description that I had for her has completely disappeared, but I'm talking about Tiffany Ricks, who is the CEO of HacWare. Tiffany, how are you today?
I am really excited to be here, Paco, and I'm glad that I'm one of your favorite people in the world because you're definitely one of my favorites. So
I
I'm really
appreciate that.
excited to be here.
I appreciate it, Tiffany. Now, Tiffany, you are definitely are not a newbie coming to the show. You have been on a show plenty of times to talk about the great things you're doing over at HacWare, along with a lot of the things that you've done in your past. But for those that are tuning in just for the first time, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you came to the space?
Yeah. So I am the founder and CEO of HacWare. I understand the hacker journey firsthand because I used to be a certified ethical hacker. That means, but we have an educated audience. But for those who don't know, that means that a company would hire me to show them how a bad actor could get into their organization. And so did that for various size organizations that I also, as a part of that company, owned a managed service side of our business, where after we would show them the vulnerability, it was about training the users on how to protect themselves from phishing. And so I built this platform actually because I wanted a way to automate some of the tasks we were doing and cut our labor costs with regard to end user training. And so built it in house at my company that was based in Dallas, but now I'm helping MSPs throughout the world with their phishing problems and user education problems with the HacWare platform.
Yep. And for those that have not heard of HacWare before, you're under a rock. They're probably one of the fastest growing companies that I see in not only just awareness, but business and just the adoption of that service. I mean, I think I see every time I look on LinkedIn, there's definitely an article about the great things either that you are doing, your team is doing, and what the business is doing as well. So kudos to you on all the hard work that you've put in for this platform. I know security awareness training is sometimes not the easiest sell, right? For that to be for many years, but I think now people are starting to understand the true, really just benefit of having a security awareness training platform and not having to do it themselves, right? You mentioned how you've been helping those around the world really try to understand, okay, why do I need security awareness training and why should I implement it into my MSP to my end users? And so, I thought that this time we could take that conversation to a little bit more in depth, practical needs, and just really, you know, requirements that are required for some people that may either not know or searching for a platform that could help check off some of these things if they're following a particular framework. Most importantly, for us, we follow CIS version 8. And so, one of their controls, which I believe is control 14 now, I don't know if they've released their next version, but at least we're speaking to version 8, is in regards to security awareness training and really identifying on how, the success or failure of someone's security program is the human link, and how do you help with that behavioral and psychological realm of that, right?
Mhm.
And just a few stats that I have heard from over the years and just really most recently, apparently now in 2023, 70% of data breaches are involved because of the human element in some way, shape, or form. And now what's crazy is that 1 in 3 data breaches are occurring because of phishing, which has been the tactic that has happened, my understanding, since the 80s. And
Mhm.
so it's just amazing on how we've become so busy in the work life and complacent that this is still a problem. And especially if you're remote work, you know, remote work is amazing. My entire team is remote, but
Mhm.
daily life happens. And if you're that busy and you're not figuring out what's going on, you can get caught in some of that as well. I I just received a phishing email yesterday that slipped through our spam filtering,
Yep.
and the thing looked legit for the mere fact of it was very off, but the fact that it said it was encrypted, that I said, oh, it's from this accountant, it's this, etc.
Mhm.
it must be from them. But no, it was basically a business email compromise, and we were able to figure out, okay, what's happening. So was able to reach out to that colleague, let them know. But it's just those things where if you're not fast enough or you don't catch it, it's not front of mind, which is why obviously security awareness training is so important. um, I imagine from you developing this culture, this the ability of understanding that it's the low hanging fruit that gets us, and how do we get in front of people for that? Can you share a little bit more on, why security awareness training is so important? Really, just again that human link that seems to be the biggest weak link for a lot of businesses.
Absolutely, Paco. You're spot on. You definitely get it that our people are definitely vulnerable and it's not top of mind. And what I have seen is that we're that is what cyber criminals want. They want us to stay uneducated because that makes their job super easy. And so that's why small businesses are getting targeted 70% of the time out of the different size companies. They're going too small because they believe that these organizations, they're moving fast. They have employees who don't have the bandwidth to spend the time training about what phishing looks like today. And so that's why it's really important to have managed service providers managing that critical element, the user training piece. But I'll tell you this: there's 14 different ransomware gangs that are targeting MSPs and their small business customers.
Mm,
And that is because there's a huge opportunity here. Cyber criminals, their number one motivation is money. Small businesses, they may think they have this myth that cyber criminals don't want what they have, but it's economies of scale. So if they can go after small businesses and they're easy to get access to, they can easily extract money out of those organizations with ransomware attacks. Small businesses on average are spending at least a $500,000 to resolve ransomware attacks. So this is big business for them. And then when we think about the controls, so you talked about following the Center for Internet Security framework, the CIS controls. There's 18 different controls that we have to follow. And MSPs are doing a great job of setting up this framework, mapping their solutions to the 18 different controls. But control 14, where um, uh, the traditional security awareness solutions they're failing the MSP because they are hard to use. They are not uh, changing and adapting to the phishing threats that are happening today. A lot of them are designed for one-time use, which means an MSP is busy so they can use this product annually or potentially quarterly. But security, to train people, we can't just train them one time. We can't just train them 4 times a year. Security awareness training has to be a continuous endeavor where we're continuously training people so they can keep retaining that retention. You talked about it being top of mind. The only way it's going to be top of mind if this is something that they're continuously going through, having conversations with their managed service provider about best practices. And even if they fail, we can you can use phishing as a way to create conversations about what to look out for, um, using this as a teachable moment, so when they're in a real attack, they understand what to do. So we always are trying to create a conversation between our small businesses, our managed service provider, around security, where it's not a fearful thing. It is a way for us to keep the conversation open, learning, retention. And so that's why security awareness is super important in this climate.
yeah, and I think you hit on a big piece of that is how to try and stay top of mind and building that culture and security. In your opinion, I think back to the corporate days, and they used to only give us the security awareness training annually.
Yes.
And I always felt like it was always a drag due to content, which we'll get into that in a second. But I always felt like once it was done, it was like it was gone, right? Like as you just mentioned. And so what we've done is we've tried to do this monthly, and several modules at a time, just to kind
Mhm.
of keep that fresh. What would you say for an MSP listening? Well, how should they be running their security awareness training program frequency with their platform? And is there some automation that they should think about trying to do that? Because I know some platforms you may have to do it manually if you are doing it monthly. Can you share a
Mhm.
little bit about what you've seen success on the frequency for the end users that an MSP is managing?
Absolutely. So the frequency, I like the idea of once a month. Our platform, HacWare, we're trying to build a habit is formed over 21 days. And so
Mm,
really trying to think about how you can increase that frequency. So by default, our platform follows this thought process that over 21 days, we want to train your people to look out they're going to get a phishing simulation, and there's a whole psychology behind getting that phishing simulation first. Getting
mhm,
that phishing simulation first is all about trying to increase awareness, and so you have some individuals in the organization who believe they know all there is about cybersecurity. They got their PhD in cybersecurity, and so they
mhm,
have this thought process that they don't need to learn anything. And if you send them a video, they're oftentimes going to be that individual that is going to have an unresponse. They're not going to be responsive to the training. They're not going to engage with it. You're going to have to keep reminding them that they need to take the training. And so for us, we see a better engagement when you start with that phishing simulation, because now they have opened their thought process into thinking there
mm,
is something that I need to learn here. I made a mistake. Um, there's an opportunity where I now want to watch the video to learn a little bit more about how I can change my risky behavior. The video, we don't want to everyone's busy now, so we don't want to spend a long amount of time doing this. We want to give them short form training exercises, which allows you to continue to increase your frequency. So our videos, when they take them, they're 3 minutes or less. We have some that are just 60-second videos, that allows them to understand a scenario, the understand what is actually corrective training, what do they need to learn to improve. And then after that, um, it's all about sending them content. So sending them some content that's tailored. Our platform does it tailored to them and what they need to learn, but sending them content, short form. Uh, it could be a blog post. It could be just a image with some statistics. Over time, just sending them content, and that is how you kind
mm,
of keep the conversation going without really bothering them and impacting their day. And so we do that through automation. But for organizations that are doing this manually, the key thing here is you want to try to first really explain to your users why this is important. Why do you need to take this training? And you need to have this uh, information, either it goes out in an email or you have a kickoff meeting. But it's really important for them to understand, why are you putting them through this training experience, and make it personalized to them. Talk about, a family scenario of, if you didn't do this, you could potentially put your family in danger. If you don't protect your credentials to Amazon, your Amazon account, if that gets hacked, then whoever is sharing that account with you, they could potentially get access to their credit cards and making fraudulent charges on their account. So really trying to figure out how you can try to really make the um, endeavor of why we're training personal. Then they'll get it, and then they'll be open to the monthly training that you may be giving them. But the key thing is that you have to follow up. You just can't send it out and then, if they're not completing the training, not following up. And so you got to follow up, make sure that they're going to complete the training. There's escalations you can do. There's a lot you can do, but I think it's really important, because we're super busy, we got to make our lives easier. So add some automation in there wherever you can, to ensure that the training is moving forward and you're not the bottleneck, or someone on your team isn't the bottleneck.
Right. And that's such a big piece to really harp on is that, not only is it so much the responsibility as you as the MSP that are offering the security awareness training, but really trying to gain that shared responsibility with the client and having a point person there. So like for us, we have our boots on the ground person, which is normally like the office manager,
Yep.
the front desk reception, that kind of is the go-to for the staff on kind of the catch-all everything, not
Mhm.
necessarily the owner unless it is a smaller business, and really having them kind of harp on them and having them manage some of this. Hey, you haven't done this security awareness training program, or
Yep.
hey, we noticed that this happened as well. But I love what you said on, you know, for them to really just open their eyes and really just understand, wow, this is going to be powerful, is opening up with that phishing simulation,
Mhm.
um, prepping for that, discussing it with the key stakeholders on, hey, I want to do this and I want to show you that, just to see if there is any holes that are going on with
Yep.
the organization, and why security awareness training is so powerful. Because yeah, we can give you stats to death, but you're not going to see it until, again, it goes into this mentality of it can't come happen to me
Right.
mentality, because I'm X amount of people, I have so much, I don't have much to take. And they
Mhm.
don't realize the impact until A, they see something like this through
Right.
a simulation, and then B, really going through the training. We had a client recently that said, um, they had there was a big smishing campaign that was happening, and so they had warranted that had been, you know any years before that we implemented a security awareness training program, that they would have not had front of mind, like, wow, we literally just went through this and now it's kind of going from there. So
That's it.
it's amazing on what you mentioned, where it's those 21 days
Mhm.
that really multiply the impact throughout the organization, and especially for that person, not only business wise but also personally as well. And it really just helps up the organization's like social responsibility, right? And
Oh
being
yeah.
able to say, hey, we are on it. And when they're talking to other people, and just employee well-being, because now they're not worried about having to cause an issue for the client, for those that care, and what are things that we're trying to figure out, right? And so that all comes down to not only the way that it's delivered, but the
Mhm.
content that's delivered as well. And I think that's one of the big proponents for the big great things about HacWare is your content is not a slideshow with words, right? That we
Right.
see in corporate America, or some of the older platforms that we see, that is just, in my opinion, dry. I
Mhm.
mean, and I've gone through many a security awareness training programs that are just so dry. And my whole thing is that if I try to go through something like that and it's a pain, I can't even imagine my clients trying to go through that. So can you talk a little bit about how you've come to, how the content kind of came about to ensure that, because obviously the whole point of the content is to make sure that it gravitates and it grabs their attention as they're paying attention to the topic. What kind of helped you develop the type of content that you're developing right now for the platform?
Yeah, the content is key, because that is how you enable retention. Like that is how you. It's all about how do we get, what is it? What are the entertaining ways that we can make cybersecurity accessible and make sure that people understand it, and then also retain it, and but move towards action, because you can learn. There's a lot of learning that you can do, but there is also action that you need to put some of this learning into practice. And so for me, I'm always trying to look at, what were some of the barriers that I had with learning. Just like with you, you talked about some of your security awareness endeavors. They were dry,
Hmm.
and I used to work with the Department of Defense, and it used to be long, boring training. There was humor, but it was a long video. So the first thing was the content had to be short. The other thing that I thought about is, well, I remember working in the Department of Defense where a lot of the characters didn't look like me. I didn't, and that was important for retention and also for helping me to listen more and lean in more. And so I'm very conscious about, with the characters that we have in our videos, it's about embracing diversity, because there's a science behind that. If you see something, see someone, or see an experience that you relate to that you haven't seen anywhere else, that's going to cause you to lean in. It's going to cause you to listen. It's going to cause you potentially to remember, and also potentially put yourself in that person's shoes and
Hmm.
try to think about in that scenario, this is relatable and I could see myself doing something like this. So now I need to listen to how I can make sure that I am following the corrective steps to make sure that I'm not this person in this scenario that they remind me of myself. So we look at, different ethnic backgrounds. We're looking at different, you know, it could be just even certain hairstyles. We're just trying to, and then also this accessibility as far as disabilities. We're adding so many different levels of diversity in our content because we want people to see themselves in the content, to see that this isn't something that's foreign, that can't happen to them, something that's relatable, that would allow them to listen, retain, and put some of this stuff into practice. And the short form content is just all about just trying to make sure that it's short enough for them to remember. And then when we send them training again, it's not um, going to bother them. This is something where it's short enough where they can take the training again. It's going to be funny or it's going to be dramatic, to try to make sure that it's something enjoyable for them to watch. Because again, these people aren't getting PhDs in cybersecurity. They've spent their career learning their craft, and they want to get back to doing what they're doing, but we just need to teach them how to do it more securely. And so that's the
Yeah.
method to our content madness.
So it's amazing on how you said it, because I love that, and that's one of the why I'm such a big supporter of the business is the conscious effort of the inclusivity and diversity in the platform. And I think that what allows for that is such a big piece, because I think what a lot of people associate diversity and inclusion, um, they associate that with race. And I don't think that that's really the only thing that they
Right.
have to focus on. I think what I heard best was from Denzel Washington in a recent interview that he had was, it's not the fact of the race of delivering content to relation, it's the cultural differences
Mhm.
to understand that relationship. Because again, I will know something because I've lived it, and you
Right.
know something how you lived it, and being able to see that transpire from someone like us explaining that difference and explaining that experience. It's like, I have been through that.
Mhm.
I have had the point where, I have to go and try and figure out where the sandal is because it's got thrown at me because I'm at a young age. It's like those type of cultural differences that only we know from our upbringings and understanding that. And I think
Mhm.
once people start to understand that it's a cultural difference, that someone from another culture may not understand our culture, and it's
Mhm.
our help to educate them, but it does speak volumes when it comes from someone like us. I use
Mhm.
this same example. What was it? I can't remember the interview I was in, but I was basically talking about Juan Fernandez, and who is your global channel chief over at HacWare. And I consider him a very dear friend, a mentor. And before we even knew each other, I saw all of the great things he did. He ran a multi-million dollar MSP. He had exited several times where I was told at my size, I can't do something like that. There's no
Mhm.
way you can get into the $1 million mark, and so forth and forward. And then I see someone of Latino descent doing it and killing it, and really just doing all kinds of things that I have just never even fathomed to aspire to. And so looking at him as in that inspiration has really just allowed us to really just say, you know what, we can do that. I can go
Absolutely.
ahead. And there's such a power to say that. And I say that all the time. And one of the missions that we have here for MSP Unplugged, once I brought Rick Smith on 2 years ago, is really just how do we incorporate more of that, and really understanding that it is for everyone. It is no matter what your cultural difference may be,
Mhm.
whatever you how inclusive we can be to ensure that everyone can not only enjoy but also learn and thrive in whatever you do. And I think, bringing it back to, security awareness training is the fact that now you have something that you can relate to, that hopefully you can internalize in your
Mhm.
everyday, not only just for work, but also for the end user's personal life as well. So, not sure if you had any feedback on that, but
No,
um,
I think that's 100% it. And then, it's it's super important for us to also, like you said, that the myth of when content is just one way, when it's just one way and it's just showing a certain group, subconsciously, I think it's saying we're feeding the myth that, well, this only happens to this group. This group is the only one that, could fall for something like that. I'm not going to fall for anything like that. And so is the diversity thing, it can go to where if you have it, this could be a great thing. You can see yourself, you can potentially use this as a way to start retaining information and putting certain things in practice. But you could also see the opposite side of it as a way where we are telling subconsciously a big part of our population that they're not at risk. It's only this group here.
right.
And that's putting our companies at risk. These companies that are hiring, everyone who's capable of doing their job. If you're only showing content for one group, then you're putting your diverse organization at risk, because you're subconsciously could be telling them that they're not going to fall for anything.
Yeah, no, it speaks true to just on not only making sure that everyone is included, making sure that we have the ability to tell stories that resonate with those users, but most
Mhm.
importantly is being modern
Mhm.
keeping up with all the changes that are going on right now. And again, now cyber insurance companies are requiring this product
Absolutely.
in this type of program for a business. Compliance regulations are now requiring this. And so, speaking to, having a modern security awareness training versus the traditional training that was of the past, I imagine for HacWare that you are obviously keeping up with what's going on and what's that regulation. How often are you seeing yourself either A, developing new content to address some of these changes, or B, how are you kind of refreshing things to make sure, as far as a management and a governing standpoint, a user is able to kind of make sure that that program is giving the best benefit to the end user?
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, because the content definitely has to change, because the cyber landscape is continuously training. And some people get frustrated that cyber criminals don't stay the same, and then they're not following the same trends that they've done in the past. But cyber criminals, they evolve, they adapt, they are. I look at them as engineers that are doing things for bad. So engineers are always looking for new innovations, new tools, new ways to solve problems. A bad actor is trying to solve a problem of, potentially they're trying to they're money motivated. So their problem is they're trying to get access to money, or they're trying to get, or it's a hacktivism thing where they're trying to just take down an organization that is a problem for them. And so
Mm,
they're looking for innovative ways to do that. And as us, as managed service providers, as security practitioners, we can't do what the bad actors do, but we have to know what they're doing to be able to train our people on how to protect themselves from their tactics. And so it's always important to make sure that your security training content is evolving and changing, just like the threat landscape. So for us, we're updating our content 2 to 4 weeks. We're planning to increase that cadence, but we're putting out new videos twice a month. And then also, we're releasing, by the time this video comes out, we're releasing a new capability for policies and management. So we talked about, governance, risk, compliance, cybersecurity, insurance. We have an integration with the GRC platform now that makes auditing and showing that your all of
Mhm.
your users are in compliance. But we also understand that there's certain policies that need to be sent out for all the end users to sign off and get buy-in that they're going to um, uh, follow these rules and regulations. And so that capability is going to be released um, at the beginning of September. So by the time this video
Okay.
comes out, audience, definitely check out that new capability that will be released.
Awesome. And then for those that don't know, HacWare will be at TechCon Unplugged, so you'll be more than happy to engage with Juan Fernandez and know a little bit more about HacWare and all the new things, especially the new feature they just mentioned today. Tiffany, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Um, as we round out the show, is there anything that we haven't touched based on or that you'd want to share before we end off on the show?
It's always a pleasure to be here, Paco. We're doing a lot in the partner support space. We just launched a Discord community for our partners, where we're doing digital peer groups for our partners to talk about sales strategies, sales objections. We also are getting ready for Security Awareness Month, where we're giving out free cybersecurity kits to anyone who comes to our platform and sign up. So September is going to be the month to start getting prepared for October Security Awareness Month. So check us out at hackware.com/MSP.
Awesome. So for those that have not heard, head over to hackware.com. Actually, go ahead and make sure you engage with Tiffany on LinkedIn. Also, they have an amazing group on LinkedIn as well. There's actually, if you follow their page or the group, I can't remember which one, there are some previous recordings on a great masterclass that Juan
Yep.
Fernandez has done that walks you through the customer journey. So definitely take a look. They have a lot of great resources. Tiffany, again, once again, I appreciate you coming out and taking some time to share with your expertise. It's always a great conversation to have with you. And for all of you, we appreciate you tuning in. Tune in on our regular schedule now, Tuesday and Thursdays. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know when we drop a new episode. And if you want to take us with you on the go, you can go ahead and follow us on your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and on Spotify, just to name a few. Again, we appreciate you tuning in and listening to this podcast, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.